looking at Prince Andrew, who, if he had a brain cell, it would die of loneliness. And there were microphones and cameras all over these Epstein properties. So once you were there and you partook, they had control of you. These questions of the British royal family have to be asked. Okay, some time's passed, but so what? The same questions that have never been asked have to be asked. What was this record-breaking doing in your inner sanctum for decade after decade after being introduced by a known... Charles, you must have known what he was. Don't tell me you didn't know. This was the thing. Oh, no one told us. Oh, come on, man. So why were you his mate all along when you knew what he was doing? Same as you would ask the question of Gates. Why were you continuing to be a friend and associate of Epstein when he'd already been prosecuted for... What was the Epstein network? What was that ring? It was a ring of compromising famous people, influential people, people in politics, people in royalty. So you had control of them. So you look at Epstein, he was quite blatantly an agent. What's kind of funny is the kind of inversion, whereby you're supposed to walk 3 steps behind royalty or something, like Prince Philip behind the Queen. But now we've got Prince Harry who walks 3 steps behind his missus from Suits or whatever show she was on. The thing about this global cult is that you can serve it, and if you serve it, you get enormous benefits. I mean, Bill Gates, I rest my case. But, and again, this would apply to the whole Epstein situation as well. If you become not just surplus to requirements to this cult, but you become a potential danger to what they don't want to coming out, they'll cut you off without a second thought. And you know, they're quite happy for you to be destroyed. So you have to look at all these things when we're looking at the Epstein situation. Even today, they're doing the same rituals they did in Babylon because it's the frequency that they're generating.
So here we are, back on the Isle of Wight. Podcast number 3 with David Icke. Do you think that the big names, Prince Andrew, we've seen, it come out about Bill Gates recently, Leon Black, who financed over 150 million to Epstein. Do you think all these big names will be protected? The Clintons, and she'll be just boxed off somewhere?
Well, I think they'll do their best to do that. I mean, they obviously didn't want Epstein to get into a courtroom where all these people that were abused by the ring had their day in court to describe what happened and some of the people that were there. But there's many different strands of the story going. For instance, it's been my contention now for a while that we are looking at the last era of the royal family. If you go back into history, royal families have served this, what I call global cult, very well, not least because through them, massive centralization of power has been possible. So, you have a monarch, and the monarch says what happens. And that's the ultimate centralization of power. And you had that for a long time. And the royal family in Britain has served the cult very well. It's up to its neck in the rings of Britain. But what we're looking at, and I think this is a background that's important in terms of what we're talking about. what is this, which has been called many things over the ages, over the period, like the new order of the ages, like Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, and now and all this stuff. And it's about a complete and utter realignment of the global structure of control, and it's going to go into technology and it's like no world we've ever seen before. So then you think, well, what is a fundamental part of what's going on? It is the complete transformation of Western society. That's what we're seeing now, because of the and many other things, like the increasing transformation of the population demographics in Europe and in America. Western society is fundamentally being transformed. So then you look at what do they need to bring down to bring an end to Western society. So if you were looking at a society which you wanted to transform, you would first look at the dominant racial group, the one that is the foundation, or has been anyway up to this point, of Western society. And of course, it's the white race. If you wanted to bring down Asia, you wouldn't go for the white race. You'd go for the Asian race, obviously, the predominant racial group. So, number one, we've seen this blatant attack on white people, where, and this is the key, where you can say what you like about white people. There is no political correct defense. None. Say what you like. Any other group, it's politically incorrect to say the same that you're saying about white people. Now, this is becoming so blatantly obvious in America, it's almost laughable, with this white supremacy nonsense. And if you're pushing back on this agenda in any way, then you are a white supremacist, even though you might not have a racist cell in your body. So you see that happening. And then you look at the history of Western society, and because of the history and where it's come from, it's been interlaced with the Christian religion. I'm not a Christian. I don't follow a religion. But even so, if you look at the fabric of Western society, look at the fabric of British society, indeed European society, American society, it's got this Christian religion going through it. So if you wanted to pull the bricks out of Western society, then you would undermine Christianity. Like I say, even though I'm not a Christian, we have to be streetwise and look dispassionately at what's going on and why, rather than, come from our own point of view and bias. And so you look again. You can say what the hell you like about the Christian religion. Anything goes, man. But any other religion, political correctness says that you are anti this, anti that, you're an ist this and an ist that if you criticize it in any way. And why I'm talking about this is because I'm coming round to the royal family. If you look at the fabric, say, of, the Commonwealth, yes, to a very large extent, but you look at the fabric of Britain, the whole of British society is built upon the monarchy and the crown. We don't have a government. Or a people's government. We certainly don't have that. We have Her Majesty's government, We don't have an opposition party. We have Her Majesty's most loyal opposition. And then we have Her Majesty's tax office, Her Majesty's every bloody thing. Now, if you wanted to totally transform British society, and that's all part of this transformation of Western society, and you wanted to, again, pull the bricks out of the structure, well, you imagine what would happen to the structure of British society if the royal family ceased to be what it is now. Everything would have to be completely redrawn because of the absolutely central part the monarchy plays in the structure of the British establishment. And when I look at the royal family now, I see that Philip's gone. The Queen is not going to be around for a great deal of time. That's pretty obvious. And then I look what's left when she's gone. What's left is Prince Charles, who is very unpopular, pompous man. Then you've got the rest of them. You've got Prince William, who's, he looks to me like he's had a charisma bypass. Then where are you? You're into your Edwards. You are looking at Prince Andrew, who, if he had a brain cell, it would die of loneliness. And then at the same time this is happening, right? You got exocets being fired across the Atlantic by the narcissist Meghan Markle. What's kind of funny is the kind of inversion, whereby you're supposed to walk 3 steps behind royalty or something, like Prince Philip behind the Queen. But now we've got Prince Harry, who walks 3 steps behind his missus from Suits or whatever show she was on. So, and you've got this situation now where you look at the institution and you think, well, where's this going to go from here? And it's all happening in this same time that this is being pushed, which is I can't express enough what a transformation of global society that they are talking about. I mean, forget every structure you've ever seen, because it's meant to go and be replaced by a completely different system. So you wonder if they might at some point hang Andrew out to dry, because it would be part of this undermining of the monarchy. Now, the thing about this global cult is that you can serve it, and if you serve it, you get enormous benefits. I mean, Bill Gates, I rest my case. But, and again, this would apply to the whole Epstein situation as well. If you become not just surplus to requirements to this cult, but you become a potential danger to what they don't want to coming out, they'll cut you off without a second thought. And they're quite happy for you to be destroyed. So you have to look at all these things when we're looking at the Epstein situation.
I get questions all the time from people who want to start podcasts. How will I get views? How will I come across on camera? Do you have any tips, advice? Well, despite all of my fears and hesitations, I went for it and launched my podcast. It also helps when you have a partner like Shopify on your side. Get started with your own design studio of hundreds of ready-to-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store that matches your brand style. Get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. And what if you get stuck? Shopify is always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your £1 per month trial today at shopify.co.uk/Sean. Go to shopify.co.uk/Sean, SHAUN. That's shopify.co.uk/Sean. Link is in the description box if you're watching this on YouTube. Back to the podcast.
And all the double bluffs that go on. But, on the face of it, you would say they would be looking for a way of keeping this out of court, because they don't want these women, very brave women, and tenacious women. It's been fantastic to watch. They don't want them having their day in court to let all this out. But like I say, having said that, the rider is that they may want to take some of these people out. And again, there's so many ways to look at this. This ultimately is a world that's not run by elected politicians. It's run by technocrats. It's run by bureaucrats. It's run by engineers. It's run by scientists, God help us. But it's run by these people, technocrats like those in Silicon Valley, which effectively run the frickin' world now anyway. So as part of that process, because the way this cult works, it's running multiple programs at the same time, where politicians are serving the agenda, but another part of the agenda is to so undermine politicians and so discredit them that people say, getting rid of politicians and all this stuff, they couldn't be any worse than it is now. So what we're looking at is something it's operating on many different levels at the same time, and discrediting politicians, discrediting the whole electoral political system so that people become open to something else is all part of it. So again, we have to also be open to the fact that they may want to hang some of these people out to dry as part of that process of completely undermining people's not just confidence, but people's desire to any longer be ruled by the political system that we've been used to.
Yeah, wow. That really resonates, because so many people who've been protected for so long, all of a sudden, all these big names are starting to fall. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, chapter 16 of The Answer made me laugh. The chapter title, why is Bill G a psychopath?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he's falling. Prince Andrew, the Queen's favorite son, falling. What possessed Andrew to want to go to Prince Philip's funeral, promoting himself in admiral status and dressed in full admiral uniform? What is wrong with this guy?
Well, he's a prat. I mean, this is the thing, you see. These people are brought up in enormous privilege, and even from children, they have this sense of superiority. They're able to order adults around and lackeys around, and they get this feeling that they are untouchable, and so that, I think, has been apart from his dick. It's been part of the problem with Andrew. He's just got so over bloody confident that he can do what the hell he likes. But he didn't allow for the tenacity of Virginia Roberts.
Shout out to the survivors, Virginia Roberts, Maria and Annie Farmer. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, Maria Farmer, we're in pretty much constant touch. She emails me several times a week and sends me stories and stuff like that. She's a lovely lady, and a tremendously tenacious, determined woman, and enormous amount of respect for her. It just shows you, that if you won't let go, if you and hello, ladies and gentlemen, current events, please. If you will not allow yourself to be intimidated or feel that, well, what's the point? You're determined that you're going to stand up for what you believe to be right. You can move mountains in the sense that you can achieve things that you never thought you could achieve. I mean, it's these women that have thrown a spanner in the whole works, because without these women, Epstein would still be running his ring, and Ghislaine Maxwell would still be running it with him. But instead, he's gone, and she's in jail because of these women, and it's their tenacity. I think it's a lesson to everybody that if you say you believe in something, if you say that you believe that an injustice has taken place, then for God's sake, don't let go until the injustice is righted. And if we had a world with the determination, a population with the determination of these women, then we wouldn't be in the world that we're in now, for sure. There'd be a lot of people in jail for the rest of their lives. A lot of people will have appeared before Nuremberg trials. And your Gateses and all these other people would be obviously right up there having it happen to them. And instead, we've allowed these psychopaths to impose their will on the world in a way that, certainly in known human history has never been seen before globally. And you've got all these billions of people that just allow it to happen. When you've got this group of women who've actually put the whole network of these people into a corner where
amazing,
they're now thinking, how do we get out of here? And it's worth noting that the events since the turn of 2020 have been orchestrated by the same network that controlled Epstein.
So we recently interviewed Andrew Lowney, who is campaigning to get Lord Mountbatten's diaries published and revealed. Do you think there is a level of acceptance in royal circles because of the precedent set by Lord Mountbatten?
Oh, I think it's part of life. And part of life in the establishment. I know people made a lot of fun of me, and they have many times over the years. They're not laughing so much now, mind.
Exactly.
When I was talking about the nature of the royal family and how they were into, but they are. And when you follow this global cult back, of which they are an expression, and one of the last remaining expressions of the royal dictatorships that this cult used to run before. When you take this cult's history back to Babylon and Sumer and the ancient world, and follow it through history, through Rome and into Europe and the European empires, right to present day, it's the cement almost that's held the whole structure together. So why wouldn't it be going on today in the same networks? Of course it is. And you see, Savile is staring you in the face. It's an unpleasant thing to think about, I must say, but he's staring you in the face in the sense that you have Lord Mountbatten, who was a known. Of course, he was connected into the Kincora boys' home in Belfast, along with Ted Heath, who I named as 7 years before he died, and he took no action because he didn't want to go to court on that front. And it took 17 years after I named him for an investigation to take place when people started coming forward. Of course, it was all covered up. But you have Mountbatten, and known And then you look, who was it that invited Savile into the inner fold of the royal family? It was Mountbatten. So, I mean, these people are beyond sick. That's why Savile obviously volunteered to be a porter in Leeds Hospital so he could get access to the frickin' mortuary. I mean, all the dots connect in the end. But that side of it was horrific. And some of it, a reasonable amount of it has come out. But the big area that's been obviously not come out and has been suppressed is that he was a procurer of children for the rich and famous. Why was Savile, for goodness sake, protected all the way through this period from the 1960s right through to when he died, 2011? The police obviously knew, right? It was obvious the police knew what was going on. Now, if the police knew, the intelligence service knew, special branch knew, and this man they knew was procuring children for the rich and famous, sits at the heart of the British royal family, and no one says a bloody word all this time. Now, I've seen documentaries about royal security over the years, here and there, and I've seen someone turn up in the crowd when the Queen's doing a walkabout, and the intelligence services, the special branch, know who they are and know their background. And here we have this record-breaking paedophile and procurer of children for these psychopaths, and he's at the heart of the British royal family from the 60s through virtually to his death, with Prince Charles to his death, and no one says a bloody word. Now, the establishment knew what he was doing, but they let him sit there.
Johnny Rotten knew.
Yeah, of course. He's talked about that. But so why are the British royal family inviting through paedophile Mountbatten this record-breaking as he became, and this procurer of children? Why are they inviting him into the inner circle of their bosom? Well, obviously, it's because of what he was doing. He wasn't invited into the inner circle of the royal family despite what he was doing. He was invited because of what he was doing. And what he was doing was providing children. He provided children for Heath, Ted Heath, the Prime Minister. And then you start to look at all the connections going out from there. He was a close associate of Heath, who was a big time, more than that. The number of children that just doesn't bear even contemplating. And then he was a close associate of Margaret Thatcher and her husband, Dennis. Now, why, you see, where did Savile come from? He was a part of this new breed in the 60s, I remember him emerging, called disc jockeys. So he played discs. Okay. So that's going to get him into the royal family, isn't it? Right? And then as you go through his life to his death, like I say, in 2011, he's not even a disc jockey. He is an aging past disc jockey. He's gone through his BBC career with Jim'll Fix It, which was a great title because Jim was always fixing it. But at the end of his life, he had phenomenally expensive cars. He had about 8 homes. Where's the visible income in all these latter years when he's past his entertainment peak? In fact, it's gone. It's procuring children. That's where the money came from. So then you look at, like I said, that his close association with Margaret Thatcher, whose, of course, father, was it Alfred Roberts, in Grantham, was an infamous, shall we say, he had an infamous interest in young girls, put it that way. And if you remember, when the political story broke in terms of a Westminster network, where was it focused upon? Where did it come out of? Came out of the Thatcher government. It came out of the Thatcher cabinet. People like Leon Britton and so on. At the same time that she's a close associate of Savile. And then you look at who were two of the, well, one, absolutely the chief aide and Svengali of Thatcher, and the MP that was a big aide to her over a whole career as party leader and prime minister. The Mr. Big Svengali was Lord McAlpine, who I named as in The Biggest Secret, which came out in 1997. And then, of course, much later, that story broke about him being and then that was covered up and kind of went away. He was a Lord McAlpine, and he is the big figure that was with Thatcher all the way through that period when she became party leader, and then through to when she was ousted. And the other guy who was an aide in the same period was Peter Morrison, MP for Chester, who was a known and some newspapers tried to out him as such, but threats of legal action always stopped them. So this record-breaking paedophile and procurer of children, Savile, is associate of Thatcher, claims to have, spent many New Year's Eves with her and stuff like that. At the same time, she's overseeing a cabinet that is the center of this Westminster story. And her two big aides were both, hello, over here. What? And at the same time that's going on, Savile's in there in the inner bosom of the royal family. And what happened? What happened to the questions? Excuse me, can I call you, Your Majesty? Is that all right, Mom? Yes? Why are you having this in the inner circle of your family since the 60s when he was introduced by called Lord Mountbatten to modern times? Why did you do that, Mom? Oh, Prince of Wales. Can I call you Prince of Wales? Why were you basically a close mate of his all these years? Did Special Branch never have a word in one's ear? No. But then when, the research I've done over the years, the intelligence network is rife with the two. So they all watch each other's backs. And because they know that other people's backs are ultimately their back. And so Savile prospered and did his horrors without being caught or prosecuted. Because if he went down, they all went down. But, they were safe with him because he wasn't doing that under duress. He was doing it because he wanted to do it because that was him. And so they were safe with him. They didn't have to worry about Jim. Jim will fix it. So he went to the end of his life unprosecuted for the horrors that he perpetrated. And this is how the whole system works. But like I said, the moment you become surplus to requirements or a danger to the ongoing agenda, a way of stuff coming out you don't want to come out, they'll just cut you off and let you float away, or um, something happens and you're no longer with us. This is how it works.
You're Epsteined.
Yeah, but the thing is that even today, Sean, these questions of the British royal family have to be asked. Okay, some time's passed, but so what? The same questions that have never been asked have to be asked. What was this record-breaking doing in your inner sanctum for decade after being introduced by a known... Charles, you must have known what he was. Don't tell me you didn't know. This was the thing. Oh, no one told us. Oh, come on, man. So why were you his mate all along when you knew what he was doing? Same as you would ask the question of Gates. Why were you continuing to be a friend and associate of Epstein when he'd already been prosecuted for... Because it's a web. It's a club. And are absolutely the cement that holds it together, not least through blackmail.
What role did Edwina Currie play in all of this, and what questions should she be asked?
Well, I mean, Edwina Currie's note in her published diaries, I've got the book at home, just shows the callous disregard for the kids who are abused. Because towards the end of the Thatcher premiership, she gave a role, a job, an official title to Peter Morrison. Peter Morrison, who they all knew he was likes little boys. That's the kind of code they use. And Edwina Currie wrote in this diary of hers that at the time it was happening, she published obviously later, that she was concerned that Thatcher had given Morrison this role because he's a known, as she put it. So, Miss Currie, you knew that Peter Morrison was and you said nothing, and you did nothing, and you put it in your bloody diary that you are concerned that Thatcher's made a mistake and it could come back to bite them because of the known nature of Peter Morrison. And then she says in the diary that the chairman of the Conservative Party had asked Morrison about and he'd promised to be discreet. So the chairman of the Conservative Party at the time knew that he was and we're asked to believe that no one knew about any of it. But it shows the cavalier, almost commonplace nature of it. Oh yeah, well, he's a, but then again, loads of them are, it's just part of what actually isn't just part of it. And the kids obviously are way down the list of priorities. And it's still going on today. And if you notice, when the story eventually broke, and I was talking to people about this back in the 1990s. This is why I was able to put it in the books, like The Biggest Secret in 1997. When you look at the way they covered it up, they first of all said, we're going to have this inquiry, because that's the great thing. When you want to cover something up, have an inquiry, and then you throw it down the street. And when you get questioned on it, you say, "Oh well, no, I can't say anything at this time because I don't want to preempt the outcome of the inquiry." And so, what they wanted to do was put as much time as possible between it coming out with um, your ring, your Westminster, so people forgot about it. So, what did they do? They appointed heads of the inquiry, the first two, as I recall, that was so outrageous that they knew that they would be challenged. How can you appoint this person? Was it, what was the name? Butler Ross, whatever her bloody name was, the judge, something like that. And she was connected to one of the people that was connected to Leon Britton when he was Home Secretary, and Leon Britton was part of the investigation. So it's, well, excuse me, so she stood down. What's happened? Time. And then they appoint someone else who is a friend of the Britton family. What? More time. And now it's basically disappeared, hasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, we'll see where how it ends up eventually, but it's no one talks about it anymore, and that was the idea of it. So we've had the heart of the British royal family, at the heart of the British government, and the people involved have got away with it so far.
I remember the story broke, and I was thinking, hold a minute, this is breaking news. David Icke wrote about this years ago, in the last century, actually. Where have the media been? So, do you know anything about Savile's relationship with Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper?
Well, Savile was a deeply, deeply sick man who had an obsession with death. Now, this cult, which operates globally, is a death cult. It's obsessed with death. Not life. It's not about life. It's about death. He was obsessed with death. And so with Sutcliffe, you've got a serial killer. And, these people, they operate, if we go into the esoteric, in a very low vibrational field. That's why they do what they do. It's a very distorted, low vibrational field. I mean, I could talk about this for a long time. I kind of understood a lot more about it now. And so anywhere where you have this low vibrational energy, they will be attracted to. And this could be a place like a mortuary, or it could be a person who's associated with death. Or it could be Broadmoor, the Broadmoor, obviously mental institution where so many psychopathic killers end up. And one of the things that Savile did, of course, was get access to that place and basically the run of that place. Just as he talked about having the run of Kensington Palace and the run of Buckingham Palace, he had the run of Broadmoor. And there you would have these psychopaths that someone like Savile would have great connection to, because he was a psychopath. So you can see why he would be attracted to people like Peter Sutcliffe, because they're basically the same mentality, and if they're the same mentality, they're operating in the same frequency range, and the energy of death, the energy of suffering, is within this band of frequency. So they're attracted to anything where you're dealing with death, you're dealing with suffering, you're dealing with torture. Any of these things they're attracted to because this is their energy field. They don't want joy. They don't want love. That's not the realm they operate in. And the whole establishment is basically, and certainly this global cult, is run by that mentality. This is why you know, Savile is so relevant on so many levels, because when you see what has been done to global society since, I'm trying to watch me words because I know you're trying to get this onto YouTube, and if I talk directly about it, then YouTube, of course, who love me, will have it off in 20 seconds.
Stephen Gillen sent me the link. He was so happy. Look at my David Icke interview. I clicked it, it was gone.
Yeah, Savile personified the empathy deleted, compassion deleted, soulless, heartless mentality of this global cult that is behind. And so when people say, and you still hear them say it, naivety, unfortunately, is a human disease, that people would never set out to impose upon human society the horrors that have happened in this period, where businesses are destroyed, livelihoods are destroyed, people commit in despair, young kids commit despair. People say, they'd never do that. And I say to you, Jimmy Savile, Peter Sutcliffe, this is the mentality that is driving the direction of human society and the transformation of human society. And I called him at the time, Savile, when the story broke, the gateway to the cesspit, because he is a gateway to the cesspit. He's a way in to see the scale of pure, undiluted evil that's behind world events. And he's a personification of it. So you can actually see, when you're saying, what's Bill Gates really like? Well, look at the mentality of Jimmy Savile. Do you think Jimmy Savile would give a damn about the impact on humanity in the last 15 months? He'd love it, Savile. He'd get off on it. Well, that's the mentality that's behind it, isn't it, Bill Gates?
So you said then that Savile was a procurer, and our research has led us to believe that he was procuring kids from care homes and vulnerable kids, including, what's it called, Beechcroft? Is it Beechcroft, James? Beach Home. Have you looked at where he was sourcing the kids from at all?
Well,
and how vulnerable were these kids in that era?
Well, it's still in the era today. See, it's quite a simple operation.
Duncroft.
That's with the girls.
Sorry, I got it wrong. Not Beach Home. Duncroft Girls School was
Girls School, where he was obviously involved.
Yeah,
it's quite a simple structure when you basically are running the establishment and the decisions that are ultimately made. Okay, you want to procure children, so you control those locations where children gather. So you control residential children's homes. You control that school because, like the so-called care home in Jersey, you control where the kids are. You make sure representatives of your network are running the homes. So the kids are abused by the people running the homes, the homes that they control. Not saying they control everyone, and then they're also there to be farmed out to the rich and famous. And someone like Savile would be a Mr. Fixer that would orchestrate all this, and that's where his wealth came from. I mean. He would have been paid a lot of money by some very, very rich people to provide the kids for them. And they obviously considered him extremely safe, and he proved to be so because he never revealed it, of course. But yeah, this whole children's care home network is peppered with people representing this cult, and what chance have the kids got? You look at the vulnerable, um, like I've just said with this drug. During this period of 2020 to present time, certainly in that key period in the early part of 2020 and beyond, right through 2020, basically, um, the elderly in these homes and other situations were not allowed to have their family visit. Right, so they had no one watching their back, and so anything could happen to them, and it did to an enormous number of them. It did. They were taken out. Then you look at the kids in the care homes. Who's watching their back? No one's watching their back. And people are running the homes that, I can say not all of them, but a goodly number, that have anything but their back in mind. And so the kids had no chance. This is one of the things that happened in these networks and networks and mind control networks in America, like MK Ultra. The number of times when I've talked to women and others, but a lot of women who were abused in these networks, they were constantly told who you're going to tell, who you're going to call, because there's no one to call. We have complete control of you. And this is what happens with the kids. And you can understand why when you meet them later in life, that they're often broken people because of what's happened to them. I mean, it's not just abusing them physically; it's dismantling their psyche. And this is why I look at some people who have been through this and come out the other side, like the women in the Epstein situation, like Kathy O'Brien, who came through MK Ultra, and they've come through it. They've come through it. Okay, obviously there'll be vestiges of it, but it's not broken them. And so you can come through it. But I do understand the psychological devastation of that happening, particularly at an early age, in a situation where you just look around and you think, I've got no way out of here. There's no way I can get out of this. They have complete control of me. And that's the scale of mentality that's behind current events. And that's why they would never do that. It's such a load of old crap. They'd love it.
Look at the threats Maria Farmer got from Maxwell. You could easily be found dead at the side of the road, things like that. Okay, so with Savile, he was given a weekly lunch for the cops, and there's allegations that some of those cops at Savile's property were going into the back rooms with teenage girls. Was that a mechanism of, controlling the incoming complaints about him?
Well, this is how it works, you see. The whole system but in terms of the public arena, particularly, is compromising people. You compromise people. What was the Epstein network? What was that ring? It was a ring of compromising famous people, influential people, people in politics, people in royalty. So you had control of them. So you look at Epstein. He was quite blatantly an agent of Mossad, Israeli Mossad. And he had his main accomplice in Ghislaine Maxwell, who was quite blatantly an agent of Mossad. Her father, Robert Maxwell, who I actually interviewed once for the BBC.
Oh, did you?
I did, yes.
What was his presence like?
I interviewed him. Well, don't start me. I interviewed him. What happened is, like, I was doing sport at the BBC at the time, and he bought a football club, Oxford United, right? So we did this feat. I think it was on a program called Sports Night. They called it then, a midweek program. And we did this film on Maxwell's ownership of the Oxford United. And we obviously went to a game and all that stuff. But part of it was to go to the Daily Mirror and interview him in his office. He has got to be one of the most deeply unpleasant pieces of work I've ever come across in my life. And I've come across a few. The way he talked to people around him, like his assistant and stuff, was utterly disgusting. And he was doing it in front of the crew. And, he was horrible. I mean, this man was a narcissist, an arrogant narcissist on a level that beggared belief. Now, why? Where was this narcissism coming from? Because here was another man in Robert Maxwell who thought he was untouchable, because he was an agent of Mossad. And so he served Mossad in many and various ways. Particularly, I go into this in The Trigger. He was heavily involved in circulating and selling a software program that allowed backdoor access to computer systems for Mossad, etc. And but there came a time, you remember, his business empire started to fall, and he was falling from grace. And we go back to what I said earlier. You serve them, and you're beneficial to them. You're gonna do fine. But you become a problem, they'll get rid of you. And he died, of course, on his boat called the Ghislaine, when he was on the deck and ended up in the water and stuff, and he died anyway. And of course, a Mossad agent later came out who was writing out of Canada, wrote a couple of books about Mossad and how it works. Very, very good books. And revealed that it was Mossad that killed him. And they did it with divers coming up, and, he's out to sea. Well, gotcha. So the coincidence of a Mossad agent like Epstein having an absolutely, as close as you can get, comrade and assistant in Ghislaine Maxwell, daughter of a Mossad agent. Obviously, Mossad was massively involved in that. And look at the people that Mossad compromised as a result of that ring. I mean, Maria Farmer has described to me, and others, of course, have spoken publicly about it, that there were microphones and cameras all over these Epstein properties. So once you were there and you partook, they had control of you. So, I mean, when this network says jump, I'd take it Prince Andrew breaks the Olympic high jump record, because he's as compromised as they come. If they hang him out to dry and stop protecting him, then what impact is that going to have on the reputation of the royal family, who I think that when the Queen's gone, they want to bring down as part of this?
So my new book's called Who Killed Epstein, and my theory was that the intelligence agencies are like the enforcement arm of the network. To take Epstein out on US soil, would this have to be an interagency thing between, for example, the CIA and the Mossad?
Yes. Well, the thing is, if you go deep enough in the cult network, the CIA is Mossad, Mossad is the CIA, is British intelligence, is Canadian intelligence, is Australian intelligence. I tell the story in The Trigger of how a death cult emerged in the 1600s that was called Sabbateanism. was started around a guy called Sabbatai Zevi, who claimed to be the Jewish Messiah. And what happened is that he was operating in the Ottoman Empire, or an Islamic Ottoman Empire. And the Sultan basically said, you either convert to Islam or it's good night, Vienna. So he converted. And although many of his followers, and they were massive for the time, were disillusioned, a lot of them converted, and they became known as the Donma, which means to turn to Islam. But of course, they didn't turn. They operated outwardly in an Islamic way, but they were Sabbateans, as they became known. And the Sabbateans were not actually followers of Judaism. They were followers of a death cult faith religion that was in many ways an inversion of Judaism. So if Judaism had a fast day, on the same day, Sabbateanism would have a feast day. And everything was inverted. And then when Zevi died, in the next century, along came a guy called Jacob Frank, who has been described by Jewish writers as one of the most evil men in Jewish history. And Jacob Frank claimed to be the reincarnation of Sabbatai Zevi and of the biblical patriarch Jacob. And he took Sabbateanism, or Sabbatean Frankism, as it became then, to new depths of depravity. And the modus operandi, and they became brilliant at it, of Sabbateanism and Sabbatean Frankism was infiltration. It was of being interlopers. So in the same way that they appeared to convert to Islam, but didn't really, they moved in on different cultures and different religions. One of the things that Frank targeted was the Roman Catholic Church. And this is how the modus operandi works. You pose as followers of a religion or members of a culture or a nation, but your motivation is not any of those things. It's the death cult, Sabbateans, I'll call them, Sabbateanism. And what you do is, under the front of the face that you're putting to the world, you control the positions of power. And the people think you're one of them. This is how it works. So they took over the Vatican. Not that they need to try very hard, because that goes back to Babylon. That does, the Roman Church. And one strand of the Sabbatean death cult became the Saudi Arabian royal family, the House of Saud. Wahhabism, the extreme expression of Islam, was created by a Sabbatean. I mean, this is nothing to do with Islam as a religion. This is this death cult that infiltrated it, and who is the main base and funder of Wahhabism to this day, which expresses itself as Islamic State and Al Qaeda. Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabian royal family, they're Sabbateans. And since the emergence of this crown prince, Mohammed Salman in Saudi Arabia, who basically runs the place now, you've seen this, and with other Sabbatean-ruled Islamic, apparently Islamic states like the United Arab Emirates. You've seen how publicly they've come together with Israel. Well, that's just a public expression of what's been going on all along. This is, for instance, why the Palestinians, like the kids in the care homes and like the elderly in the care homes, since the turn of 2020, have had absolutely no chance, because they've had no one watching their back. No one's watching the Palestinians back from this point of view, because they're Sabbateans.
Do you believe that they did take Epstein down then, or do you think as Lynn Wood said, that Epstein could still be alive?
I think either of the above. It depends on Epstein's association with the network, really. If his association is extremely close, they might not wanted to have taken him out. If he's considered expendable, they'd have taken him out. But either way, with the cameras not working and the two prats asleep in the back room, hello, something went on to make sure he never appeared in court. More important, that the women never appeared in court. But either of the above, I would say, because they do both. They do spirit people away to give them a new life, but they also take them out. Depends what the relationship is, really.
So I recently interviewed the former head of external threats for the Church of Scientology. I don't think I've ever asked for your thoughts on the Church of Scientology.
I once described religion as the greatest form of mind control ever invented. Because it's, you see, this cult, because in its inner core form, you probably get them into a single room, and it's manipulating billions of people. Now, to do that, you have to control the perceptions of the people, which means you're controlling the behavior of the people, because behavior comes from perception. People meekly went under house arrest in the spring of 2020 because their perception was there was a deadly virus. It's if you look at it, it's all perception equals behavior. And so if you want to control human society, which is just the amalgamation of human behavior, then you have to control human perception. So any means to that will do. And religion is a very good means to that. Not saying religion can't be a positive way of expressing spirituality for some, but basically what is religion saying? It's saying this is the truth, and if you step outside of this perceived truth, then you are you're a blasphemer or whatever. You're outside the structure. You're outside. You're not one of us anymore. And so the Christian religion has a set of beliefs, and if you go outside of those beliefs, then you're going outside of the organization, the belief system. Islam does, Judaism does. You look at all of them; they're basically just mind prisons, in the sense that here and no. They're all saying here and no further. Because if you go any further, if you explore beyond the limits of what we say is the truth, then you're not one of us anymore, and God won't like it. And that they all claim ownership of God. And so, if you look at how religion works, it's like most things in the system. They've got different names, and so they appear different, but the structure's the same. So you say, so what are you? Oh, I'm a Christian. What does that mean? Well, it means I go to church, and a man, usually a man, sometimes a woman these days, but mostly a man, in a frock, tells me what God wants me to do. Okay, and what will happen if I don't? Okay, and what are you? Well, I'm a Muslim. So what does that mean? Well, it means that I go to the mosque, and this man tells me what God wants of me, and what will happen if I don't do what he says. And what are you? Well, I follow Judaism. What does that mean? It means I go to the synagogue, and a man tells me what God wants, what he wants me to do, and what will happen if I don't. And you go through them all, and it's this blueprint. And it's about controlling perception. So you look at Scientology, and it's just another way of controlling perception. But more than that, with all the way they operate, it's also a blackmailer's bloody dream. Because you tell me your secrets, and then I'll tell you, if you don't do what I say, I'll tell everyone else your secrets. And that, I mean, this. I mean, you go back to the Skull and Bones. The Skull and Bones Secret Society, just next to the campus of Yale University, which has produced Father George Bush, which has produced Boy George Bush, which has produced many, many people who were very influential in American society and government. And they sit naked in a coffin, revealing their bloody secrets as part of their initiation. So everyone knows their bloody secrets. It's the same blueprint. And you look at Epstein, cameras, microphones. Now we know your secrets. In fact, we set them up. Now, we could reveal them to other people. But if you do what we say, maybe we won't. So you can see this blueprint. So Scientology is kind of it's a hybrid between the straight religion and the Skull and Bones. I mean, even in the Roman Catholic Church, welcome to confession, my child. Tell me your secrets, so I'll get off on them while giving you absolution. It's mad, man. I'm not saying they all do that, by the way, but I bet some of them do. When you see what's going on. I mean, we've just had this story break, Sean, about the 215 kids in Canada that have been found, the bodies.
I'm interviewing Kevin Annette about that tomorrow.
Yeah, of course, Kevin has revealed much about that in Canada, and also, of course, he comes out of the Roman Church, the Roman Catholic Church, so he knows all about that, and in terms of what he's uncovered there. But then you have the Queen story, of course, the Queen and Prince Philip story from 1964.
Because they visited that location, didn't they? Where the
Kamloops. Yeah. They visited, according to a witness, or at least one witness who's no longer with us, by the way, that they turned up. The kids were given new clothes for the first time in ages. And then I think it was 10 of them, wasn't it? 10 of the kids went off with the Queen and Prince Philip, never to be seen again. Now, again, you will have people who, because you know one of the greatest forms of mind control? It's squeezing the sense of the possible. The more you squeeze the sense of the possible that people have, the more they'll dismiss what's happening outside their perceived sense of the possible because they can't believe it's possible. So you say to people about, the Queen and Prince Philip being involved in this shite, which frankly is why they had Savile in the bosom of the family. I mean, please, hello. But most people would say, I can't compute that. I can't believe that because my sense of the possible won't allow me to encompass that as a possibility. But when you do the research, in fact, before we had the chat today, I was rereading parts of a book I'm probably in many ways more proud of than any other I've written, called The Perception Deception, which was written about 2012, something like that. In which I go into all these aspects. I go into Savile and the British royal family's involvement in all this in great detail. And when you read the research, and I reminded myself of what I've written and some of the detail that I'd written, because you write so much, the evidence is over freaking whelming that these people are involved in that. So when a former child that says he witnessed it, describes these kids going off with the Queen and Prince Philip and never returning, it is within your range of possibility because of all the information you've come across. it's the manufactured image of these people which throws so many people off the scent with they'd never do that. Oh, never. I've had people say to me, I've met that Tony Blair. He was ever so nice. Oh, really? Well, tell the people of Iraq that. Um, so you can get a feeling about people from the image that they have, and then you see what they're really like, and it's very different, very, very different. I mean, Tony Blair, I rest my case again.
What do you think happened to these 200 kids then that they recently found the bodies of, and how did they get away with that?
Well, you basically control every aspect of what is necessary. Okay, so you control the home, the residential home. The Roman Church again was behind that. The royal family is an aspect of your network. You control law enforcement at the level that decides if any inquiry is going to take place. And if any police officer genuinely, tenaciously wants to pursue the truth, well, you get rid of them very quickly, like the investigating officer in the Jersey case, the investigating officer in the Dutroux case in Belgium. You make up some pathetic reason to get them off the case, and then you put one of yours in, or at least someone who's malleable and will not investigate properly. So you control all different aspects. You control doing it, and you control covering it up. You can see the way they do it. You just make sure that your guys have covered all bases, and the rest of the world is on the outside.
Franklin scandal, the investigator there. Didn't he go down in a plane with his little son?
Yep. He was a guy who had the wherewithal to expose Bill Clinton for a start, and many others, and the plane went down. I mean, the worst thing you can do, and I've said this to people over the years, don't say you're going to reveal something. Just frickin' reveal it. Because once you've revealed it, you have some protection, because if anything happens to you, well, it's because he's revealed it. The worst thing you can do is to tell people that you're going to reveal it, not go public on it, but tell people around you you're going to reveal it. Because then something happens to you, and no one puts the pieces together. Oh, it's just been a tragic accident, Just don't say you're going to do it. Do it, And so many people. I mean, I've come across people over the years who've said, "I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do the other," and then they're taken out in what seems to be a non-sinister situation, but they're no longer with us. Just do it.
So you said the Catholic Church had a role in this disappearance of the kids in Canada.
Well, let's look at the background to the Roman Church. And this is not a condemnation of everyone in the Roman Church. It's certainly not a condemnation of everyone that follows and worships through the Roman Church. But look at its history. The Roman Church is the Church of Babylon relocated. So if you go back to Babylon, what were they doing? They were into child sacrifice and all these things. And so many people I've talked to over the years who've been witnessed some of this stuff have talked about how Babylonian rituals are so often carried out by these sick people today. Well, why? Why do they keep repeating these rituals? Because, we'll get into it now, but you see, there's two worlds in the world that we live in. There's the world of the population, and there's the world of the global cult. And what the global cult I talk about, that is a global network of secret societies with a central leadership, which most people within the network don't know there's a central leadership. Oh, I'm a Freemason, people say, and oh no, we just go down the lodge. And most of them do, They're not, they might want to use it for, get a bit of good business in the local town or stuff, but they don't know what the inner core is doing. But the inner core is basically connects into the cult, and you've got these other secret societies that the core, their upper echelons, lock into the cult. It's an interlocking leadership. Of course, the more people you allow to know that, the more chance there is of it coming out. So it's fiercely compartmentalized. I mean, when you're going up a secret society, you go to the next level of degree when that level decides that you are worthy of that level. And so safe people go up and people they can't be sure of don't. This is why the vast majority of Freemasons are in the bottom three levels of degree, the blue degrees. So you have this network, this cult. And the difference between the cult network and the general population is very simple. It's knowledge. The whole point of the cult is to, in the network, and the compartmentalization, is to pass through the generations knowledge that has to be kept out of the public arena, because what they don't want the public to know. And basically, there's two strands to this knowledge. One, obviously, is the new order of the ages, now called. It's where this cult is been taking humanity to more and more centralization of power and destruction of freedom until there's total global control, the card that was played at the turn of 2020. But there's another level of it, which is to keep the nature of reality itself from the population. Because the reality, I mean, we haven't got time to go into it now, maybe another day, but the reality that we're experiencing and the way we experience it is not the reality as it is. For instance, that's not solid. That's not solid. It appears to be. It's actually holographic. And the world that we think is around us is actually in here. It's like if you look at a computer and it's decoding information from a Wi-Fi field. We look at the screen, but the information as decoded is all inside the computer. It's not external to the computer. It's inside the computer. And it's the same with the brain body. This world is within us. We experience it as outside of us, but it's actually within us. And so the way reality works and how we interact with it, how it affects us and how we can affect that, the public must not be allowed to know that, because that gives them too much power to control and dictate their own reality. What they want to do is to keep that knowledge within the cult, indeed the inner cause of the cult. And what they want the public to believe is the world is external, that there is empty space between us, that everything is solid and physical. And what does that tell you? That means everything's limited. Once you believe in a solid physical world, it becomes an I can't world, and it's not possible world. But actually, the world is malleable. It's malleable in many ways, and they know that. They just don't want us to know. So the foundation of this reality is actually waveform information fields. You think of Wi-Fi. In so many ways, the technological world of today mirrors technologically actually the reality that we're experiencing. So a computer takes information that we cannot see, called Wi-Fi, and decodes it into a completely different form. We are taking information from a field of infinite possibility that we can't see, and we are turning that into the form of the world that we think we're experiencing. And so what that means is that frequency becomes very, very important. You can manipulate the world through frequencies, and frequencies take many, many different forms. I'm talking now, and what I'm doing is I'm resonating frequencies with my vocal cords. And what's passing between us is a vibrating information field. a waveform information field. Your ears pick up that field in the form of sound waves, turns them into electrical signals, communicates them to the brain, which decodes them into a holographic sense of reality that we experience as solid. Same with all the senses. But we only taste when electrical signals from the tongue have been decoded by the brain. We only feel pain when electrical signals from the point of banging your shin is decoded by your brain. In fact, there are pain relief techniques now where they work on stopping that signal taking place, because if it doesn't, your brain doesn't get the signal to decode, you don't say ouch. You're not in pain. So it's all kind of illusory, and the kind of perceptual state you're in and the kind of emotional state you're in broadcast different kinds of frequencies. Everything is frequency. So hatred is a frequency. Anxiety is a frequency. Love and joy, I mean, they're low frequencies, but love, joy, they're high frequencies. Everything is frequency, which is what this world is basically founded on. So they worked out a long time ago how to manipulate the frequencies through these various rituals in various places. And once you've worked it out, why would you change it? Because the effect you're getting in your ritual is created by the way you conduct the ritual, which is how you're manipulating vibration frequency. And so why would you change that if you want the same outcome? You just continue it. And that's why even today they're doing the same rituals they did in Babylon, because it's the frequency that they're generating. And when you get down to this whole frequency level of reality, you realize many things, but you realize why are they making sacrifices to the gods? What are the gods got to do with sacrificing someone? The human body, the human decoding system, can only decode into a visual reality a very, very laughably narrow band of frequency. And what that means is that we only decode frequencies that appear to us as form, right? So I'm looking at you and I'm looking at the camera and I'm seeing space between you. I'm seeing empty space between you. But that's not because there's empty space between you and the other guys. It's because I can only decode, as we all can, that frequency band in which form is involved. Between everything, if we could only see it, is a field of energy, a field of consciousness that connects everything. Once you get into this, you can explain the entirety of the so-called paranormal, telepathy, all of it. Once you realize that everything's connected by this field, and the rituals and the way they conduct them and where they conduct them is basically focused on controlling the energy, the frequency of this field. So every time, I'm going to come to the gods in a sec, every time you have a thought or an emotion, depending on the nature of it, its frequency, you're broadcasting its frequency into the field and you're affecting the field, right? So if you have lots of love and joy, what's going into the field is high vibrational frequencies, which raise the frequency of the field. Last thing this cult wants. What they want is people in a state of fear, anxiety, depression, all these low vibrational emotional states, because they are then broadcasting that into the field. and the field goes into a low vibrational state. And through our connection to the field, it brings us even more into a low vibrational state. And that's where they want humanity, in these low vibrational states, because we have the potential to connect with enormous swathes of consciousness, well beyond the five senses, and to bring that wisdom, that insight, that intuition into our perceptions. That's the last thing this cult wants. It wants people absolutely locked and entrapped in the five senses, and therefore disconnected from expanded states of consciousness where you can see things. See, the five senses see exactly what I'm describing. They see individual form and empty space. So everything is apart from everything else. But when you go into higher vibrational states, you realize that this field exists and that actually we're all one. And when you realize we're all one, it's much harder to create division, to divide and rule. When you realize that ultimately we're all the same consciousness, just different expressions of it, different points of attention within it. They want us to separate and to see everything as separate. Now, this is where social distancing, house arrest, fear of interaction, fear of connectedness. That's all part of this whole process of pushing people apart. So control of this field is fundamental to what's happening, because you start to get influenced by the field. If the field's in a low vibrational state, you're interacting with it all the time, even though you don't realize it's going to bring you into the same vibrational state. And so if we go back to the gods, because we can only see a very narrow band of frequency, we can't see the overwhelmingly infinitesimal an infinitesimal part of the infinite field we can see. It's called visible light, and it is so narrow, it's insane, really. So we're only seeing a band of frequency. Beyond that band of frequency are other entities that ultimately control the cult within human society. And that's where it's all coming from. So these entities, they feed off the frequencies that humans are putting out. You remember in the Matrix, where Morpheus holds up the battery and says the machines have turned us into these. Well, that's what we've been turned into. These entities operate at a very low level of frequency, and you can only absorb the frequency that corresponds with your own. Otherwise, like radio stations, you share the same space, but you never connect. And so for these low vibrational entities, hence they do what they do, to absorb human energy, it has to be within their frequency band. So this is why, another reason they want us in these low states of frequency, because these entities are feeding off us. And if you look into any culture around the world, you'll see that they call these entities different names, but the basic same story they tell about these entities is the same. So when you're doing a ritual and you get the victim into states of terror, that's a very powerful but very low frequency that they are emitting. And these entities are feeding off it. They're feeding off the terror that's coming off the victim.
Like Savile swallowing the souls of his victims.
Yeah, Savile's obsession with death, again, is a personification of what I'm talking about. So, and it's part of what they feed off. This is why they're obsessed with death. With Savile, why they do their was in churchyards, among the graves, and what have you. So, when you take this ritual theme and you see this the sacrifice ritual of an individual. Okay, now take it onto another level. What's a war?
It's like
What
mass sacrifice.
what's a famine? What's a world war? These are mass death blood rituals. And what's going on now um, is all part of that. What we're experiencing now is a global death ritual involving these and involving what's been done to so many people in the period that we're talking about, in terms of the elderly and people not getting treatment and stuff like that. It's all part of this blood ritual, and it's meant to go into more extreme levels, which is why we've got to get our fingers out and stop cooperating with this. But to them, everything's a ritual. So then you come to the obsession this cult has with symbolism, right? They, they have a whole language of symbols, and this is for two reasons. One, or two main reasons. One, symbolism is the language of the subconscious. So if almost every dream that people have is not literal, it's symbolic, because symbolism is the language of the subconscious, and it's the subconscious that this cult is after. Because if it can get into your subconscious, that will filter through to your conscious mind, and at that point, you think you've had your own instincts, your own thoughts, your own decisions, but actually they've been put at the subconscious level. So that's part of symbolism. It speaks to the subconscious, and the amount the conscious mind takes in of the information it's receiving second by second is absolutely fractional, that the conscious mind is aware of. Subconscious mind just takes it all in, all of it. So you can have symbols around you which the conscious mind does not acknowledge, but its effect has gone in and affected you. I mean, this is why they're using symbolism all the time in things like advertisements. And in fact, when you consciously acknowledge something, you actually stop its effect. I've used this a number of times in the books. It's phenomenal. I was using it on some people the other day. There's if you look at a picture and there's a subliminal image in it, right? And people look at it and you say, "Can you see the subliminal image?" They say, "Oh, no, mate, can't see that. No, can't see anything." Then you point it out. And every time, not, here and there, every time, when anyone looks at that picture again, the subliminal image is the first thing they see. Why? Because it's been taken out of the subconscious, put in the conscious mind. The conscious mind is aware of it. Its impact ceases to happen. So this language of symbolism is very, very important to this cult, the way it works. The other thing is that in the way that consciousness works, what something represents and has been created to represent generates the frequency of what it represents. So, you have the pyramid and all-seeing eye. That represents human control, and it generates because it represents it, it's generating the frequency of human control, which explains why. And I've seen amazing montage compilations of the number of times that the pyramid and the eye appear in children's cartoons. It is insane, the number of times. You see them on the internet, some of the montages.
Our first podcast, I remember I wore a pyramid with an eye t-shirt, And people mustn't have understood English sarcasm, because I'm getting all these comments saying, he's a shill, look at his
Yeah.
T-shirt, what's he doing in there?
Oh, we all get that crap. I was walking, I was on one of the London marches recently, against the lockdowns and for freedom. And people were wonderful. They were fantastic. That's such a lovely people. That's a lovely energy. I mean, a totally different consciousness that you find among those that have bought it. But this one lad, he's only quite a young lad, he came up to me, he said, "We know you're a..." Right? And I'm looking at him thinking, well, that's the first time I've noticed it. You know what I mean? And you wonder where it's coming from. And you kind of, you spend 30 years taking to get this stuff out. What you've said is planned turns out to be true. And then people say, he's controlled opposition. Right? I mean, you wonder sometimes. I mean, I can understand why people that just get their information from the mainstream, why they bought this crap, and therefore their behavior has followed what the cult wants. But people who claim to be in any way enlightened, some of them, you wonder. I mean, it's even worse when you know a bit and you come out with this absolute garbage. I'll tell you a quick story about this. Years ago, I've been in 3 Masonic temples in my life, right? One was bizarre. Well, they were all bizarre, really. But one of them was in Birmingham, right? So there's this New Age in those days. That's the only people I could speak with. It was the New Age, right? So they had this New Age festival at this place, and I was driven there. I didn't know where it was. We go in, and I walk in the door, and I realize there's no freaking windows, right? I said, "What's going on?" I said, "Oh, it's a Masonic lodge, right? This lodge has hired the place out for this New Age festival. In fact, there was a guy who had a stall there called Ron Saunders. I interviewed Ron Saunders a long time before for the BBC because Ron Saunders was the manager of Aston Villa Football Club when they won the European Cup. So I kind of knew him from those days, and there he was. He'd found spirituality, right? So he was there as well. And there's a lot of people there. And I did a speech in this big Masonic frickin' area, this like the biggest part of it. And instead of having the black and white, floor with the tiles and stuff, it was a black and white carpet, So I'm standing there. There's 1 or 2 Freemasons just turning up. They're on the balcony. And I'm talking about the way that secret societies are manipulating human society in the Freemasonic lodge. It was freaking bizarre. Anyway, one of the things we did, because I wanted to look around it, is where, when we had found a time we could slip down. We slipped down into some of they were quite small actually, some of the lodges, so I could see, what they looked like. And then the other one was down the road from where I live. It's called Ride Lodge, and you remember there was a big furore quite a few years ago now about Freemasonry and all this stuff, and it was based around the Mother Lodge in Great Queen Street in London, and oh no, we're cuddly, we are. So as part of this, we're cuddly, they had an open day at this lodge. And I went in and I was talking to some of them. And you know what struck me that day was how little the rank and file knew about any of it. I thought I'm gonna find out, how deep this goes in terms of understanding it. And I was saying, what does that symbol mean? That one, and it would be a classic kind of symbol that you see in Freemasonic, symbolism. And he said, "I don't know." He said, "It's the origin's been lost in antiquity." So you don't have to go very far down the Freemasons before you find people who know nothing really about the real stuff. It's all compartmentalized, and they actually become the almost like the shield for the inner core. Anyway, going back to this other story, the third Freemasonic lodge I've ever been into was in Boston. I was talking in Boston, and Boston's a big Freemasonic place, right? And they have this big freaking lodge. So I thought, well, I'll go and have a look at it, right? And I'm looking on the outside and stuff, and I'm with a little group of people. And the door was open. And this really was bizarre, because we walked in, and there's nobody there. So we kept walking, and we're looking in the glass display areas, and there was a picture of Walt Disney and stuff like that. So no one came. So we kept walking. Walked up the stairs. The only person we met in the entire time was a bloke who was doing some building work. The place was freaking empty. So I thought, well, this is fun. So we go in this in this kind of lodge, this temple. It's quite big, and you've got all the classics with the two pillars of Freemasonry and stuff. And they had the chair, the worshipful master's chair, I suppose to call it. And I thought this would be great. So I went and sat in it, give it that. And somebody took a picture. It was hilarious, right? And so what I then started doing was using this in the talks around the world. And I would tell the story, and then I'd put the picture up of me in the chair like that, right? And it always got a good laugh, because it was kind of bizarre that you'd actually get in. Anyway, what I'm seeing now, or what I'm being told, is that people are using that, saying Ike's a Freemason.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, you think you're freaking awake. You think you think you're not a sheeple, as you call everybody else. It's insane, isn't it? But I mean, I've been called worse, I suppose.
I've just got two questions left then. First one is your thoughts on the Meghan and Harry opera interview.
Well, I mean, she's a professional narcissist who saw the main chance, didn't she? I mean, the idea, I had this blind date with Harry. I didn't know much about him. Oh, come on,
Never
woman.
Googled the royal family.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Of course it is. But she is being used. How much she knows, I don't know, but she's certainly being used, and he's being used in undermining the royal family. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like almost like the enemy within is card is being played. So I said in one of the books, I think it was The Answer, that I think that they were going to be used and earn an enormous amount of money, being used by the cult, however much they know or don't know, as a real symbol of the woke agenda. Because the woke agenda, with all its political correctness and identity politics and racial division, because wokeness is incredibly racist, that was created and is funded by the cult. This is why billionaires and billionaire corporations fund Black Lives Matter to the tune of the best part of $100 million. It's because they want the racial division. They want the divide and rule, and so it's they're playing a part in selling the woke agenda and also firing the missiles at the royal family, and so it's I don't think that's by accident or by chance. It's all coming together in this same period. As I say, I think not before the Queen goes, but when the Queen goes, I think they'll want to wrap that up pretty quick. Not necessarily that the royal family will disappear, but its role in society and the structure of society will fundamentally change and die out.
What would you say to someone who's unsure about the existence of UFOs? Do you think there will be contact with aliens in the future?
Well, the idea. Well, let's just take this. If you take the projected size of the universe by mainstream science, take that. I mean, it's almost everything will be vastly bigger than they would claim. But just take their projected size of the universe. By contrast, planet Earth is the equivalent of a billionth of a pinhead, right? So I do think there's other life other than humans, funnily enough. I was always going to say intelligent life, but after the last year, I just wonder how much intelligent life there is here, really. But so the fact that there is other life out there is obviously a gimme. Please. But we've got to be very careful. It's like when we were talking earlier about the Epstein thing, and you've got to stay light on your feet and look at these different possibilities and outcomes based on what this cult wants. And back in the 90s, I was writing about a project called Bluebeam, an American intelligence project called Bluebeam, military intelligence project, which was to fake, part of it was to fake an alien invasion. One of the things you could do, there's many ways you could manipulate that, but one of the things you could do is justify centralization of power to meet the threat. There's other ways you could use that too. But anyway, it creates a situation which has great potential for global manipulation. And I remember later seeing the story of a lady who was the assistant of Werner von Braun. And Werner von Braun was a Nazi scientist who was a designer of the V2 rockets that were fired at London. And towards the end of the war, because the cult has no borders, a very, very large number of Nazi scientists, mind controllers, including Joseph Mengele, the angel of death in the concentration camps, and experts and engineers in many and various fields, they were spirited out of Germany to America under something called Project Paperclip or Operation Paperclip. And it was they that set up NASA, which of course changed the S to a Z, and that's kind of appropriate. And so Werner von Braun was one of the central figures in the moon program. He was a designer of the Saturn V rockets that powered the craft. Anyway, when he found he was dying, he said to this assistant, American assistant, that she could expect a series of things to happen. And all of them would be fakes. He talked about terrorism would be played. That wouldn't be what it seemed to be. That there would be countries of concern. So you look at your Iraqs and you look at your Syrias and how the demonization of them has led to things that the cult wanted to happen. And there was a number of things, including asteroids, threats from asteroids. You see that's being talked about more and more now. And he said the last of them, there was a few, he said the last of them would be a fake alien invasion. And that all these things would not be real, they'd be manufactured. And then I remember I traveled America extensively in the 1990s, talking to nobody, by the way. But
I heard you on Coast to Coast.
Yeah, I met an enormous number of people. It was a fantastic period, very challenging period, because I spoke to 5 people in a front room in New England once. I thought that's a good night. It was just, but it was necessary. But what I did was met a lot of people and met a lot of whistleblowers. A lot of people, a lot of insiders and stuff like that. And a big theme of those people at the time was UFOs. And the fact that the American military had UFOs. UFOs, what we call flying saucers, anti-gravity craft, they had them. And again, we go back to something I was talking about earlier, about the one of the great ways to manipulate people is to squeeze their sense of the possible. And so, in that sense, if you have advanced craft, but the public don't know you have advanced craft, when you start flying them around, people immediately think otherworld alien. We're not necessarily so. And again, if we're going to be streetwise, we've got to realize that the truth and reality is very rarely black and white. It's always a shade of gray. It's finding the shade of gray that's the trick. And so, are humans the only life in the universe? Of course not. That would be daft. But do the inner core of the American military, for instance, and it will be the same in others, I'm sure. Some others, the major ones, do they have craft that would be perceived as alien craft? Yeah, they do. And people, insiders were talking about this to me and talking to other people in the 90s that these craft existed. And these underground bases, they go down such a long way, and as you go down the base, you need greater and greater security clearances the lower you go. And so it's fantastically compartmentalized. Most people working on these bases have no idea what's going on at the lower levels, and some amazing things are happening. And so, first of all, they have these craft, but then again, so-called aliens have these craft, and there's a lot of information that I came across that actually there has been a technological transfer between some alien groups and the human elite, what I would call the cult, and the cult is at the inner core of the military. Most of the military won't know this. So pilots will be flying around and they'll see these craft and they'll think, well, we can't explain them. We don't have them. Well, actually, I think you might. And then all the way through the 90s, while I was getting this information from various people, it was all government pushback. It was all government military intelligence pushback. Oh no, there's no evidence of aliens, and little green, he believes in little green men and all this stuff, right? And now look at the change. Suddenly, and it's always been a red flag to me when something comes out of nowhere and is suddenly everywhere. It's the agenda. Someone's pressed a button on the next stage, and so suddenly, instead of pushing back little green men, they started releasing footage from military pilots, of these craft doing things that technology we know about can't do. Now, they might be, quote, alien, or they might not, but they're releasing it. And now, as we speak, in June 2021, before the end of this month, they say that the American military say they are going to release a document detailing what they know about UFOs and unexplained flying objects, etc., to the public. And suddenly, the media is picking it up. There was a 60 minutes documentary on what these craft are, and suddenly, from little green men, load of rubbish, it's like, oh no, yeah. So there's something going on, and I think we need to be very, very careful about the way this could be manipulated to give us either the impression that there's an alien invasion, or that, oh no, well these aliens, they might be able to help us out, because this is the truth. The aliens are not coming. They're already here and have been here all along. I've talked about it many times over the years and written about it and been called mad for doing so, but this is the point. behind this cult is a non-human force. And it takes the form that I described earlier, of these, quote, gods, as they're called, absorbing these energies, but also takes one expression of it is aliens in physical form. And so the idea that the aliens are coming is nonsense, because they've been here all along. And in the end, it's in this non-human arena that you find the ultimate point of control that plays out in the human world through this cult to what? Take control of human society. And you look at what's going on, the whole thing. Oh, I might trouble YouTube now. And it's all anti-human. You have a situation where not only do they want to stop the production of carbon dioxide, people like Gates want to use technology to suck it out of the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is the gas of life. Without it, we'd all be dead. It's the oxygen of the natural world. Our food supply depends upon it. And we apparently, the last time I saw, have about 413, 419 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. You talk to the experts in carbon dioxide, and they say, actually, it's not that we have too much, we don't have enough. The optimum for plant growth is about 2,000 parts per million. And people might ask themselves, oh, it's global warming. Why growers using greenhouses put extra carbon dioxide in there? Because of the plant growth. And if carbon dioxide drops anywhere close to 150 parts per million, then the natural world starts to die. And we go with it. And it was going that way. It was going that way until the industrial era started unlocking carbon dioxide in the form of fossil fuels, and the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere increased. So taking carbon dioxide out of circulation is anti-human. Then you look at what they are doing, and not just planning to do with the human body, and that's to infuse it with synthetic material that changes its biological nature to a synthetic biological nature. That's anti-human. You look at the openly discussed, openly revealed plan to connect the human brain to artificial intelligence. That's anti-human. They're actually saying openly they want to replace human thinking with artificial intelligence thinking. That's anti-human. That is destroying human. And what they say is, it'll make us like the gods. We'll be, our potential will fantastically increase. Yeah, but the human's gone. It won't make us, beyond human in a positive way. It will make us post-human. The human mind and human interaction and human perception as we've come to know it will be gone. It will be whatever artificial intelligence dictates our perceptions are. That's anti-human. And if you go down the list, this cult has a completely anti-human agenda. Why? Because ultimately it's not human. That's why. We're looking at a takeover of the human world by a non-human force. That's what we're looking at. I mean, Klaus Schwab. I mean, if he's human, then I'm an igloo, really. I mean, look at him.
David, you've been very generous with your time. We've gone over what we agreed. Should we go to the pub? Do you want to go back? We can have some snacks.
Well, I don't mind. I'm driving, so we can do if you like.
All right. So please let us know what you thought about this video today. Absolutely mind-blowing that we've been able to encompass so much, especially pertaining to recent developments and royal family developments, and far more in-depth on the Savile case as well, which I know there's endless fascination out there with. Also, do not forget, we got my answer. We got my latest one. And David has just sent off to the print shop Perceptions of a Renegade Mind. You can find his work on the Iconic platform, and I'm hoping to do some collaboration with Gareth, his son, one of his sons, here soon as well. So I urge people to go over and support David's work. He's been so generous with his time after time. Is there anything you'd like to say to the people watching?
Yeah, well, just one final thing. A renegade mind. What is a renegade mind? Well, it's beyond a critical thinking mind. A renegade mind looks at the world differently, reaches perceptions about what's happening, and then doesn't cooperate with its own enslavement. And I'll give you just a quick example. You may have come across this. A guy called Peter Hitchens, who is a Daily Mail columnist, long-standing, he has pushed back on the lockdown measures and the restrictions. Very, very good. And then when they were rolled out, he announced in a column one day that he'd had it, right? And he said he'd had it. He didn't really want it, but he'd had it because he wanted to go and visit family members abroad, and these were obviously coming in that you needed to get on a plane, etc. And so he'd had it for that reason. Now, Peter Hitchens has a questioning mind. He has a mind that critically thinks, but he doesn't have a renegade mind.